The Signs Language of Adam, Volume 1, Book 1, The Ancient Language Master Key, Untold Story of Language. And today we're going to discuss briefly the letter Resh, which is the equivalent of the English letter R. So the letter Resh corresponds to the sound of the German and English R. Geometrically, its value is 200, and the meaning of the letter is actually a head. It came from a depiction of a head, and with time changed. I'm explaining that further in details in my book. It is sometimes in Asian languages pronounced as an L. There are a group of letters called the Lamnar, L-M-N-R, or Lamed Mem Nun Resh in Hebrew, which are interchangeable. These letters interchange in roots, and sometimes the letter Resh and L and Lamed, R and L, are interchanged. So for example, in Asia, instead of foreign, you will have the word Falang. Or for people who can't pronounce the R, so they would say Fleddy instead of Freddy, or Lucia instead of Russia. And this happens quite often. Freddie Mercury, for example, would be pronounced as Fleddy Melkuli in some Asian languages. But this also happens within Germanic languages, English languages, and within Hebrew itself. For example, the word Gar'in turns into Gal'in, Margalit or Marganit. It does happen also in words in other languages. It happens also, for example, within roots that turned from Hebrew to German. For example, the word aber in German means aval in Hebrew, meaning but. So aval, aber. It's the same root, it's just that the R and L interchanged. The meaning of the letter actually head, but it refers to anything that has a head. And that could be the head of a grain, the head of a plant, the head of a mountain, a high head, which is har. It's actually, the hay is in English high, and Resh, it's a head, so it's a high head, it's a mountaintop. It could be the head of a cattle. It appears in roots as grain, for example, which is the head of the plant, which flies away, and it's actually the seed, which you can plant, but you can also grind it and eat it. So it appears in roots with everything that to do with heads, and with the house of heads. So for example, in Hebrew, bar is meaning the house of heads, is the nature and everything that grows outside. The derivatives of people who travel on the bar, on the fields, in the nature, are the Hebrews from this bar root and many other roots, which turned in German to ver, fair, far, fahren. Far away. Traveling has to do with traveling over the fields, because they used to travel with the cattle heads and the sheep and the goats, which were also heads. So anything you can eat. Rocks also considered as heads and separable things. So heads could mean many things, but mostly things which are alive, nature, or could be detached, like rocks which are detached from a mountain, or high, and first as well. So in the head of things, it's in the beginning. Bereshit, for example, it's in the beginning of the Bible. It means in the head of all things. So head means also that. Okay, that was only a very brief descriptions of the meaning of the letter. And if you want to read more about how bar is used in roots of places where people travel to, like in Germany, Bramfeld, Barnfeld, Berlin, Bergedorf, Birmingham, Glastonbury, or in places in Asia, Kachanburi, Rachanburi, Lopaburi, Buriram, or even Burma, and other places with bar, meaning field. You can actually read my book and understand how it got its meaning and where it derives from, how these words turned into other things. In Hebrew we have other words with bar, for example like the bear, the dove, but we have the bear likes honey, and the dvora is also with bar. So it's bee which goes around the bar collecting the flowers. Right, so it's actually many things. Also dvarim in Hebrew, things that rotate around the field, everything that can be collected and carried, because you can imagine in the past, before many years, people didn't have wheels. This invention was only about 5,000 years old, a little bit more, maybe 8,000 years old, but before that, people still spoke language similar to Hebrew. They still carried things around, and you only carry the stuff you need, which you find, and you find it necessary because it's heavy, and you can't carry many things with you. Right, so this and much more you can read in the book Signs Language of Adam, which speaks about the development of cave signs and other signs from the agricultural revolution and before, which developed into the language we speak in today and how it appears in roots, because the language that we are speaking today is actually synchronized with symbols. So every word we say is composed of roots, which are symbols comprised of all kinds of depictions and concepts that we had, which turned into roots and words. So it's actually the alphabet is not what you think. It's not we're painting a picture to resemble a thing which sounds similar. We are speaking in a sound that corresponds to the picture. So it's actually the other way around. If you want to learn more about this, you can read it all in my book.